Good morning. It's Wednesday. It's raining. It's cold. Hey! Just coming out the drive. It's grey. It's horrible. Oh, what happened to summer? Anyhow. Oh, a little bit earlier today than normal, getting out. Just having coffee there. Oh, I do need coffee in the morning. Traffic's heavy as normal, according to Google Maps. I certainly won't dispute that. I haven't got there yet, but I'm pretty certain that's what it's going to be like. It's a Wednesday. Oh, Wednesday, eh? God, I love Wednesdays. But kids are back in school this week. I think some have already started. So a lot start tomorrow, I think on Thursday. I'm pretty sure before the school runs. But yeah, I think a lot of people don't take time off this week because of the schools. So yeah, off to work we go. Oh man, a good few cyclists around actually. Very hardy cyclists. Well, because it's quite cold and raining. And I have to say, I do support the cyclists who cycle in the bad weather wholeheartedly. I mean, the primary reason is it keeps them out of the cars, out of my way, and hopefully makes it a smoother commute. And talking of smoother, PTFE, Polytetrafluoroethylene. Sounds pretty good. It's close enough. PTFE tape is meant to be a very low friction substance. It's used by plumbers, I think, on threads of compression fittings, and it's been described as similar friction to ice on ice. That's pretty frictionless, isn't it? So yeah, polytetrafluoroethylene. Probably one of those words, many years ago I decided I was going to learn, learn to say, and I think over time I've probably forgotten a little bit. It's not really a phrase I'd use every day. I don't do much plumbing, if I'm honest. I find it a bit messy, the whole water thing, the sewage thing and the grey water. Oh, yeah, I'm not really into that. I'm having some more coffee. Quite a lot of coffee actually. Yeah, so I could never be a plumber, and I know they have quite a wide remit now, plumbers. I think they do gas as well, don't they? Central heating and that sort of thing. It's all quite regulated these days. You have to be certified, I think, don't you, to work on that sort of stuff. I'm quite handy around the house. I have been known to do the odd job around the house, but I think nowadays you can really do less and less. I'm thinking about electricity. I've done quite a bit with electricity over the years, fitted kitchens and fitted sockets and all sorts of things, but the law's changed now. There's a certification in Ireland, I think it's called Recce. I think you have to renew it every so often to be an electrician, but also electrics on my own house. I can only do like-for-like replacements, I think. I can't do any major rewiring. I'm not really too concerned about that. Maybe it would have been one, 10 or 15 years ago, but I'm much less concerned about it now, because I get someone in if I need to do something. But the house I'm in at the moment is pretty well established. I've got the sockets pretty much where I put them or where I've had them put, and things like that. It's very interesting that we use a 3-pin plug in Ireland, the same as the UK, for supplying power to things. It's probably the sturdiest power plug on the market. Was it the first one to be invented? It was pretty early on in there. I know, going back at the dawn of time when the grid has been rolled out across the UK, because at one time there was all sorts of standards for electricity across England. There was different voltages, different plug socket combinations, And if you was to travel around the UK, you would literally have to have adapters for different counties, for different places you was visiting that had been electrified, until the advent of what's called the national grid, which standardised the voltages and also the receptacles, the plugs and sockets and things like that. It was interesting. I think the guy that proposed it, and his name escapes me, I could Google it, I'm not going to, who proposed the grid and came up with its design, in a sense. His own socket and voltage, I think, lost out. And a different one was decided upon. But even so, it was a great suggestion. We need standardisation in our life for a lot of stuff. And it's very interesting that it's a very sturdy receptacle for mains power, the 3-pin plug. You basically got a long earth pin and then 2 smaller pins. And the 2 smaller pins are your live and your neutral. It's an AC plug as opposed to DC. And I think that's for transmission reasons, isn't it? DC is very hard, I believe, to transmit across long distances. But I understand now all electric cars and stuff are DC, aren't they? So the DC power, it's direct current, which isn't alternating. But I did notice many years ago, I worked in a company where they had a generator. And what had happened is, originally the voltage in the UK and Ireland was 240 volts. And over time, certainly in the UK, it was standardised to a pan-European 220 volts. It's only 20 volts of a difference. But he did it gradually over a period of time, some years ago. Just drinking coffee. Until it got down to 220 volts, and it was fine, it was, not much of a difference. That was okay, everything worked. But what happened is, the lights were like slightly dimmer, but you wouldn't notice. You're running on 220. Anyway, when the power supply used to fail in this office that I worked in, the diesel generator would kick in and provide like an emergency power supply, and the lights would get suddenly brighter because it was outputting at 240 volts, and it's very interesting. You didn't realise that over a certain period of time they'd reduced the voltage to 220 for the European standard, whatever, and the lights have got dimmer. I do know generators in general, they can be a pretty rough power supply, especially when I think you're using electronic items. It can be a bit of a problem for some items. It's not a sinusoidal wave of AC power, and it can be a bit jaggedy. I think that can cause problems with some items. But so electricity, very dangerous. I think what makes it so dangerous is the fact that you can't see it. Obviously, if you pass current through something that glows because it's hot, you can see it in that, I suppose. But that's really the heat, isn't it, that you're seeing, as opposed to the power itself. And I think that's what makes it, and it's such a powerful substance. If you were to be, I have been electrocuted actually a few times, not badly. I'm happy to say. I was removing the cover on a certain control box in a piece of equipment I was working on. It's gone back a while now, 25 years ago. And as I pulled the cover off, it turns out that there was a transformer behind it, and there was 2 pins sticking out, the mains, live and neutral. They were sticking out. So as I put my hand on the cover to pull it out, I just brushed them. I hardly touched them. Oh my God, man. It was agony. I was definitely wide awake that day, But I have had little tingles and little shocks here and there. I know people that have had some pretty serious ones as well. I know people that have been going across a roof or a room with electricity. And in some ways that's a good thing, because they was obviously disconnected from the power when they was blown across the room with the shock, whatever. But it's worse if your muscles tighten up and you grip on. I do know a story, and it is a true story. More coffee. About a woman who was she had a kitchen with a sink under the window, as is normal, on the front of the house, and she was just, I don't know, turning a tap on, and it was live basically. There'd been a fault. Sometimes they use the copper pipes as an earth, but there was a fault anyway, and it was live, the actual tap. And as she touched it, she got a shock, but the worst thing was the actual muscles in her hand contracted with the electricity running through it. So she gripped hard onto the tap. She couldn't let go, and she's been electrocuted. And what was quite fortuitous was there was a postman delivering letters. Just happened to be walking up a drive, delivering post, and he saw her being electrocuted. And he went in, and obviously the one thing you can't do is you can't touch someone that's live, because you'll be live then. We don't want that, do we? That'd be a silly idea. And I think he used a stick or something just to hit her with the stick to get her off the tap. And she survived. I'm glad to say she was fine. You know, she was sort of injured. I mean, there's burns, and your nerves get stimulated. You can be a bit hyper for a while afterwards. But she was okay, and she was very, very lucky that he happened to be going past. I think if it had been any longer, she would have probably died. But yeah, I know people that have been electrocuted. I knew a guy, he once was working on which I think was some sort of circular saw he was working on. It was 3-phase, which is like 3 single phases of 240 volts. And one of the phases was still live when he came to pull the cable out. And he was blown across the room, and a doctor was called, ambulance. He was okay, but he was real jittery. And the doctor said to him, well, he said, you probably took 10 years off your life, you know. If you'd been 10 years older, you'd probably be dead now, you know. And he also said to him that you're feeling jittery because all your nerves have been energized, all your nerves and muscles with this electricity. And he was just so hyper, having been electrocuted. But he was lucky anyway, and he was fine. And as far as I know now, he's still going strong, you know. Unless he's been electrocuted again, which I know he wouldn't be now. I think you're definitely more careful once you've had a shock, and it literally is a shock, to be electrocuted.